Hello, welcome to the Splatterbrained podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Bennett, and here's my lovely wife.
Hi, I'm Zoe. Bennett and I have been married for just over a year, but we've been together for almost 9 years.
And we are huge horror fans together, let it be clear up front.
And we are the proud cat parents of a tuxedo named Henry and a little orange girl named Chloe. And fun fact, they were born on Friday the 13th, and they are orange and black, so they are perfect for these Halloween lovers.
While we're at it, Henry is named after Henry Spencer from Eraserhead.
And Chloe is named Chloe because it rhymes with Zoe.
We're just going to give a bit of an introduction for ourselves in this episode and keep it really nice and simple. So I'm going to start by kind of giving my history with horror movies and listing childhood favorites, and then Zoe will take over, list hers, and then we'll kind of volley back and forth. I started my horror journey, if you will, in a very ambiguous spot. I don't remember what my first horror movie was because I was too young to form memories that clearly. But I do know that by the time I was 10, I was already a fan of slasher franchises, and I had a DVD collection of so many different, franchises that I had Stephen King movies like Misery and The Shining and like The Dead Zone and Cujo and all that, like 80s mostly. And then Jeepers Creepers was a big one for me, and The Shining was a main one. Scream was a huge one. Things that scared me really, really bad as a kid were like the American remake of The Grudge. Funny enough, the Amityville Horror remake from 2005 and Signs really, really got me. Want to give your history?
Yeah, so I was not as hardcore into horror as Bennett was when he was a kid. I was more into the DComs, all the Disney Channel movies, Halloween Town, Twitches, Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire. I was really into Coraline, Corpse Bride, Casper, and those kind of movies. But I've always been a huge Halloween fan in general.
Anything that scared you, particularly as a kid, like stuck out as scary?
I do remember the first horror movie that really sticks out to me in my mind as really scaring me was Halloween 2. And I specifically remember watching that one in middle school on Halloween on a Sunday morning.
And that's the 1981?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I couldn't stop thinking about it all night. And I think I stayed up that entire night before school on Monday. So that sticks out to me as probably my scariest thing as a kid.
Good pull. Yeah.
And looking back now, it's really not that scary, but that traumatized me.
Fair.
In middle school.
So kind of moving on to the current state of horror, I just feel like it's necessary to point this out because this podcast is starting in the middle of 2025. So we're halfway through a decade of horror movies, and we're a quarter of a century through horror movies in the 21st century. Pretty much a landmark year in many ways. And for the century at large, I think it's been very strong. But for the decade, I struggled to find a clear identity with it, and I'll get into more of that later, but I think we should just go ahead and establish a few of our favorites and our preferences for this decade so far, just to plant ourselves and give you an idea of where we are in more modern movies versus just horror movies in general. So I'm going to start by saying 2020 onwards, some of my favorites are Bring Her Back, to be more recent, In a Violent Nature from last year, The Substance, this crazy French movie, Mads, and then Phil Tippett's surrealist apocalyptic masterpiece, Mad God. Those are just a few of my favorites off the top of my head for more recent horror movies. Zoe, what about you?
Yeah, so Bennett and I have, in some ways, really similar tastes, but we also differ in a lot of ways. The only one that we really overlap on so far for our favorite of the decade is The Substance, which was definitely one of my favorites. A few of my others are Malignant, Nosferatu, Stop Motion, and Longlegs. And Bennett and I have talked about Longlegs and that it seems to kind of split people and their opinions of it. But for me, it was one of the strongest movies that I've seen of this decade so far.
That is a good point. I don't get it. I don't get what splits people about Longlegs so much.
I think it's exactly what it promised to be. It's perfect to me.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I think it was better than I was even expecting. I watched the trailer and I loved it. And then I watched the movie and I loved it even more. So I don't know why people don't like it. There seems to be a big divide on that one, but I think it's great.
Yeah. Here's one that isn't 2020's onward, but It Comes at Night. I'm a staunch defender of that movie. Bad marketing, say what you will. And I know Zoe doesn't even agree fully. I have not gotten her to rewatch it yet, but It Comes at Night. It's such a strong movie. It is a meditation on distrust and anxiety of others in your life. It is so freaky. It's just as divisive as Longlegs. It's a similar kind of thing. Anyway.
So do you want to talk about our favorite like eras and stuff?
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time thinking about mine, and I've landed on one that is absolutely definite. It is the 2000s. It is the aughts. Such things as Saw, the kind of boom of remakes, and the new French extremity movement, and sort of the early explosion of found footage that came with Paranormal Activity, even though I know that there's tons of found footage movies before that. Found footage really kicked off the remake boom. Super fun. There was the US Asian remakes, you know what I mean? Like the Japanese ones, like The Grudge and The Ring. 2000s are such a fun time. They're so mean. One movie I think I forgot to mention in my childhood history segment was Rob Zombie's Halloween. That is a huge movie for me. And I think that movie set me on a course of preferring horror movies that are dark and mean and just pessimistic. I feel like it possibly gave me too dark of a taste early on. Anyway, where were we? Oh, the 2000s,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, it does apply. Saw? The Saw franchise?
So good.
Oh, that's super mean. Want to take over?
Yeah, so I really like the 2000s too. I like how fast-paced they all are and kind of gritty and just there's just a certain look to them that I really do like. But I think for me, my favorites are probably the 70s and 80s. And I really like B movies and movies that aren't that good and they're just really fun and cheesy. I love that.
I don't think many people will argue with that. 70s and 80s.
Things like Let's Scare Jessica to Death. That sticks out. That's a huge one for me. And just the fun movies like Chopping Mall and Child's Play.
Let's Scare Jessica to Death is weirdly enough, it's one of the few movies as an adult to give me nightmares that I can absolutely source from the movie itself. I had nightmares about moles. 4 weeks after watching that movie, I had 3 consecutive nights in a row where I had nightmares about moles.
I never see anyone talking about that movie either.
Yeah, that movie's great. Yeah, good pick. That could be the best one. Objectively best is not a term that I think should exist ever, but like if we went to the most unanimous, I think 80s. 70s to 80s could be the most popular.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything better when it comes to sound in movies than the 80s synth horror. That's my favorite.
Oh yeah. I love 70s and 80s footstep Foley. It's just something special.
Okay, so now that we've talked more broadly about our favorite eras, Bennett, what are some of your favorite horror movies of all time?
Okay, my first place, I've thought about this time and time again, and every single time it is The Shining by Stanley Kubrick. But then my second favorite may be contentious. Yeah, I mean, I can't help myself. Rob Zombie's Halloween. I'll explain myself in due time. But from there, it's much more ambiguous. It's kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The Lighthouse from Robert Eggers is one of my favorite all-time horror movies. There's a French extremity movie from 2007 called Inside. It's kind of a Christmas movie, but God, it is just a masterpiece. A House That Jack Built by Lars von Trier and Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. Jeepers Creepers is one of my all-time favorites. And yeah, how about you?
So some of my favorites, I think my favorite movie forever has been Beetlejuice. And I don't think I've ever met anyone that doesn't like the movie Beetlejuice, but that's just an all-time favorite for me. And then Bride of Chucky.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably the most fun movie ever. I'm obsessed with Jennifer Tilly. I'm obsessed with Rob Zombie's song Living Dead Girl.
Mm-hmm.
I love that movie. I think it may be one of the best Child's Play movies that there is.
Agreed. It almost feels like sacrilege on myself, but it may be my favorite.
I think it's mine. It's hard to beat the first one.
And the second one.
But I don't know. I think it's probably the best. And then some of my other favorites would be Trick or Treat. That one's just so fun. And then Final Destination.
Good one.
That one really sticks out to me too. I remember watching that as a kid, and it just kind of gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling when I'm watching it. It makes me feel like I'm a kid again.
It's also possibly the most flawless franchise for what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, good one.
Mm-hmm. It's like a mix of brutal and fun. It's like the kills are pretty intense, but it has fun with it the entire time.
Mm-hmm. It feels like a last cry of the 90s.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel 2000s-y.
Yeah. Once you get into the sequels, they really do. They really have that fast-paced editing of the 2000s.
3
yeah.
is where it really is just like, we're in the 2000s
right.
now. 2 is almost like still like the color grading is so like plain.
Yeah, it is really plain.
In a good way. In a 90s way.
Yeah.
Any more?
That's all I had listed. But I'm a huge fan of what I call pretty horror. When you think of horror movies, I think everyone really thinks of like the dark and the gritty. And I do love that, but I love horror that is not what you're expecting. That's just pretty. Like Funny Games, the original Funny Games, Goodnight Mommy, Dogtooth, movies like that, Midsummer, ones that just look pretty and are bright and sunny, but horrific things are happening in the movie. I love when it kind of tricks you.
Because Funny Games, a lot of it takes place in a house, like a drab kind of white house, but it is just gorgeous for what it is.
Yeah. You see the scenery of that and you don't think that it's going to be a horror movie. It just seems like a pretty movie. You just feel like you're on summer vacation.
Is it ever a horror movie? We're going to cover that one day.
Yeah, definitely.
That's one of our favorites.
Yeah, all-time favorites.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this introduction episode of our podcast where we established who we are and our relationships with horror individually. And it is a coincidence that you chose Trick or Treat as a favorite of all time, but it is convenient because
we will be doing a deep dive into the iconic 2007 movie Trick or Treat. So join us for our next episode.
That's right. See you next time.
Bye.